with the commonality, we've all got kids, and you work with kids professionally, so I think we play
Hi,
off
family.
of. Are we already going?
Yeah, it's red.
Hi.
Hey!
Hi.
Hola!
It's Jody.
There.
So there's two cool people in Medina.
Yes.
Wow.
Two very cool
Wow.
people. Two
My
very
wife
cool.
is the other one, not me.
Oh, there's
Yeah.
three. Dana is
Love
it's very
Dana.
awesome.
She's amazing.
So early this morning we talked about an article. It's this one. It's a lady. I raised two successful CEOs and a doctor. And here's one of the biggest mistakes I see parents making, as in everybody in the article asks her, how did you do it? How did you raise, by the way, her kids? One of them, the CEO of YouTube. Yeah, what's that? I'm not sure. CEO of 23andMe. Never heard of that one either, I guess. So there's part of me that honestly gets irritated by the article at first. You're not surprised by that.
Wow, Brian, you're irritated? I bet you disagree with her too.
Yes and no.
No?
I love her formula. She actually talks about a lot of biblical principles that she
Right.
wants to teach kids who care about their community, that are prioritizing purpose and service to others. But this is not a formula. Everybody, you, all of us, none of our kids are going to run any company anybody's ever heard of.
Right.
What I disagree with you on, though, even though
Your kids are gonna run
we
YouTube?
both read the article, is that I think she was, to me, I took it as, if you teach them to be caring, have tender hearts, to be compassionate, they will. You can lead them to live a life of purpose and meaning. In her case, they did whatever they did, But I've
But
talked
it's
to
almost
you.
the wrong example, in my opinion, because the right example would be somebody who, I want to talk about this article someday. Let's hear it for the average child.
Yeah.
Well, why
New
do we
York
have
Times.
to? Why
Yeah,
do we
go
have
ahead.
to measure success? I mean,
Hello,
why
thank
do
you.
we have to measure success?
Yeah.
Why do we have to put a label on it, like, oh, my kid's successful? Because when you
Because
do
you
that,
do, yeah.
you just poo-poo what somebody else's kid is doing.
But that's the catalyst for the article.
Right.
The reason it was written
It's
is because
because-
people want to know, how do you raise two CEOs and a doctor?
Oh, yeah.
Because that's what she did.
I see, yeah.
We want there to be a formula for this.
Right.
And therefore, we think, okay, if we just teach our kids service, then they're going to run YouTube.
Right. Oh, yeah, yeah.
No, they're not.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, the odds of this is astronomical odds. She's probably been hit by lightning, because if she's got two kids running companies like that,
Right.
Yeah.
the odds are astronomical.
Right.
And so, aren't we almost setting ourselves up for disappointment? Shouldn't we strive for our kids to just simply love and serve God, and desire, our heart's desire, for them to be very average?
Well, maybe not average.
But they probably will be average.
Right.
According to the world standards.
Hello.
Not. Yeah. Not.
But
Not
that's
with
where we
Jesus.
get caught.
Right.
We get caught there, right? Because
Right.
I want my kids to be super wealthy and successful. You said it on the show today, right? They have all their wants.
They have the things they want.
And I'd love for my kids to have that.
Right.
But I've been pressing myself to lower my standards. Is that horrible?
No. I think it's
But
horrible.
to be the best they can be,
Yeah.
There you go.
your standard of measurement, your yardstick, if you will, is not necessarily CEO of YouTube or garbage man. And there's nothing wrong with being a garbage man.
Yeah, no,
They
I know
probably
your
make
point.
more than me. But somewhere, more in what's within their grasp. What is their possibilities?
So, and yet, in every other aspect of their life, they're taught what fields are making the most money,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
defines success.
Yeah.
So how do we even begin to set the bar lower? Or, I'm sorry, set a different bar?
Set a different bar.
Because the bar for what is the bar for measuring success in God's eyes?
Well, I think you have to ask your kids too. Like, what are they? Find out what your kids are learning at school. Like, I think about the difference between, like, I've got a high schooler and an elementary student. And the things that they're learning in elementary school, like, I know Kyle's teachers, like, we have good communication, like, they love those kids, and they're more about teaching them the things that they need to know. In high school, then it becomes, this is how you're successful. And I love that my daughter can kind of smell, like, she just kind of pounds. Who cares what
about how can I make a difference. I use storytelling a lot and reading out loud, and as we've read things throughout history or ways God has used different people to make a difference, I've explored with them, like, man, I wonder how the Lord's going to use you. For some of my kids, he loves animals. It could be that, like, who knows what you can do with in terms of conservation.
And that can be just as scary. Going back to that guilt thing, I don't know. Like, we haven't spent a whole lot of time with that. Like, if they're not there yet, like if their child maybe not even know who Jesus is yet, like, that's the churchy thing. And you don't want to go that way either.
Right.
Like, you don't want to be so overtly churchy, like, what has Jesus called you to? Well, I don't know. Yeah, as adults, we don't know that.
But
so
see,
you can't
we
go
don't say that, though.
right, but we don't say that. But if you're loving that individual and you care about that individual, and sometimes maybe we should just not ask the question.
Yeah.
Or see, like, that's great, and allow them to talk instead of because if we're not talking, we're not talking out of both sides of our mouth, which I'm the worst at that. I will say.
No,
But
I'm probably right there with you.
right.
Yeah, I actually think of, when we talk about this, a show I used to really be irritated by on Disney Channel. You know, when kids are little,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you have to sit there and watch those horrible shows with them.
What was it?
Especially when you have your first or second kid, you feel all this pressure to do this. By the time you got 4 or 5 kids, trust me,
Yeah,
you're
we
not
know.
worried about watching the show.
Right.
You don't watch the show.
What you
Right.
watching? Is it okay? Okay.
That's
Is it
exactly
appropriate?
what it is. But it was
Right.
only on for a short season on the Disney Channel. It's called Higglytown Heroes.
Yes.
You remember this?
Yes,
You
the
remember
chick in
the
the
show?
pink. Oh yeah.
Okay,
My
thank
daughter
you.
loved it.
Hardly
Higglytown
anybody
Heroes.
remembers this.
And
Yes,
the
Higglytown
villain
Heroes.
was like always like like sneaking around.
But the hero was always the person you'd never cheer for.
Correct.
Like, the choir concert at school is going to fall apart
Hail the
unless
Higglytown Heroes. Yeah.
the custodian came in and cleaned up the mess.
Oh, that's cool.
Yep.
No, it's cool, but I get irritated going, that's not a hero.
You actually thought that?
Well, because I wanted to think of true heroism, right?
Right.
The hero is Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who
Yeah.
died for his faith.
Right.
But does that mean that I need to essentially start living in Higglytown with my kids and be explicitly cheering for somebody that is wholeheartedly average
Right.
and exceptionally average?
That reminds me, you know what's something that happened? We talked about leadership and how it's not a title. We went to BJ's recently, and you know those guys that get the carts?
Yeah.
For the first time, we've been members since before we had kids, 2001. So, and Isaiah has been going in by himself, my 16-year-old. And we walk in, and this guy had the carts lined up. Instead of us having to go and get
Oh,
it, he had them lined up. And my son was like, oh my gosh, like, we should talk to his manager. What a way. He's like, I've never seen that. What a way to step out and like do something extra.
Yeah.
So he noticed it, and I love that he was like, in his position, he's maybe thinking like a leader, maybe thinking like, how can I go the extra mile? So maybe pointing little things like that out.
I'm not the manager, but I can provide an easier way for a mom that's dragging 4 kids in
Right.
here to get her shopping cart.
But
And
see,
it's about going the extra mile. My husband talks about this at work. He always tells my kids and me, I don't work for my boss. I don't work for the company. I work for the Lord, and however it may feel. And he's good with that. He's like, in spite of whatever issues there may be at work, I am faithful because it's about God's work. You don't think there's ways to kind of point it out for the kids in terms of going the extra mile?
I think there are ways, and I think that's a great example of it. It shows you and Leonard showing that value. By the way, hello, Angela.
Yeah.
Angela.
Hello.
And Anita. Hi, Anna. Jenna.
But see, here's my question, right? It takes, well, what is it like? It's like a 10-to-1 ratio of compliments to counteract
Oh, yeah.
a criticism.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, as a parent, I'm wondering, do we need to cheer 10 times for the guy lining up the carts to counteract one time we're cheering for the manager,
Wow.
or
Right.
the CEO?
That's
Yeah,
so true.
that's a good thought.
Because
that's
what do
so
we do
true.
is the opposite. The
Yeah.
exception is us cheering for the guy that organized the
That's
carts.
true. Yeah.
But what we're cheering for is the manager, the entrepreneur, the
Yeah.
innovator, the inventor, Thomas Edison, Albert
That's true.
Einstein.
Yeah. That is true.
What about like the nameless guy who supported Abraham Lincoln?
Right. Or the nurses that took care of him when
Yeah.
he was shot. You know,
Yeah.
like,
That's
We
true.
don't know their names.
no, right.
But do you what is the ratio? Do we
Yeah.
have to treat it that way, or can we just simply call it when we see it, cheer for the managers, hope they end up there, but make sure they know we're satisfied if they end up organizing carts.
Yeah, but then again, I think it goes back to love. Like, if you love your kid and they know that, like, there doesn't have to be cheering. Like, if you love your kid and they know that, then that's what they need to know.
But so much of the message becomes, I want to be sure they know that I'm okay with it if they don't become the manager.
Oh yeah, that's not.
That's
you can't have that mentality
That's a different
at all.
message.
No, I think you always have to be saying to your kids, like, I'm going to help you be who God is calling you to be.
No matter what that
No
means.
matter
Oh,
what.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
you don't even need to say no matter what. Like, if you say, I'm going to
So
support
you don't say
whatever
no
you
matter
want.
what.
You don't say no matter what. If they
Yeah, 'cause
come
that
to you
does
like
imply
my
pride.
daughter, yeah, if they come to me like my daughter and say, I'm really scared about asking you to take a gap year, don't, just be like, that's fine. And it's not even a do whatever you want to do mentality. It's like, if you feel that that's best, then let's work on that together. Like, it becomes a partnership. There's a relationship there.
And if you know your child and you have a relationship with them, you know which ones are living out to their potential.
Right?
I'm
You
glad
know-
you brought that up.
Yeah, it's true.
So what do you do if they're not living up to their potential?
You
Let's
push
just
them
say
and you
Well,
I think,
wait.
yeah.
there was a guy I know in my brother's class. He was in all the honors classes, every class honors, AP, everything. High academic ability. He really wanted to be a mechanic.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's fine.
I
Yeah.
want somebody that has high academic ability to be able to process and know how things work to be working on my car.
But based on your measure just a moment ago, he's not living up to his potential because of
No,
all
no,
the
no, no.
academic
That's not what I
potential he
meant.
had. So
That's
what do
not
you mean?
Oh, I'm saying you can identify laziness in your child.
Yes.
You can identify. So if I have a strong relationship with my child and he ends up saying I'm going to be a mechanic, I would know, okay, you're just picking that because you would know that it's organic. It's a relationship. Versus I got some kids that I know you're picking that because it's the easy route because I've seen a pattern. Do you see what I'm saying? You identify
yeah.
patterns if you're connected. And I think I love your call for parents to be engaged because a lot of times we assume, oh, the school's got it. They're getting educated.
Or
They're
sometimes
set.
the church has got it. Like,
Right.
they're going to help my child find.
You
yeah.
have to disciple your children as they make these decisions, and in order to do that, you need a strong relationship.
And yet, honest parents would probably, with that kid, have a minute where you go, oh man,
Yeah.
AP,
Yeah.
and you're not going to go to university, being intellectual? I mean, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wouldn't
I don't
there be
know.
some level of,
I don't know. Like,
I hope not for me,
right.
but let's just say your kid gets a perfect score on the SAT. And
Well,
everybody, I mean, everybody's cheering. They're in the
It
newspaper.
happens.
I don't want to go to college.
Okay.
Is there any disappointment as a parent?
I think that's where you have to balance. Like, are you prideful? Like, you
Yeah.
have to keep your pride in check. Like, if you're proud of them for having that, okay, cool, but let's be proud about the other things. Let's be proud about who God made them to be. Let's be proud about the fact that I have a kid who knows to line the carts up. Let's be proud about the fact that, like, my daughter came home her freshman year and said, Mom, I know it goes on at parties. I'm not going to go. Let's be proud about that. Not because what I did or not because of what I have done as a parent, but because it's a safe place for her to make those choices. You know, honor that. Like, and going back, let's cheer 10 times for that. And that's great that you got, the SAT. But I also think, too, as parents, you got to be aware, like, that's awesome. And I struggle with this because I want to keep my kids grounded. Like, there will always be somebody out there that's smarter than
Oh,
you.
yeah.
Like,
Always.
that's the hard part, too,
Yeah.
is like, for right now, in this second, you are the best at this. But there's always somebody better. And that's hard, too, because you don't want to squash your kids'
Right.
accomplishments.
Yeah.
So what do you do with the kid who's really academically successful, and they're like, nah, I really would rather go to trade school, and you go, it sounds like you're being a little lazy because
See,
you
I
have,
don't-
and maybe they are. You think they're being lazy. They go, no, I'm not being lazy.
If they're working with their hands, that's not lazy. Like, if you want to
Yeah,
become a
that-
mechanic,
I don't think it's lazy
Right.
either. But what I'm trying to say is, like, at some point when they turn 18, if you think they're lazy, what are you going to do?
Well, you can't do anything. I think we have to acknowledge that life is a journey, and I think to just let them kind of figure it out. Okay, great, that's what you're gonna do. If I'm trusting the Holy Spirit, who I'm praying to help guide them, then I gotta trust they'll
Right.
figure it out just like I did.
I would love
Right.
to hear that conversation though with you. I mean, and with me, with an 18-year-old,
Yeah.
where you're like, you're being lazy.
No. That's the
You
thing.
have to
I
say
don't
it.
think
I'd
it
say it.
happens when you're 18.
But that's the moment of decision when you graduate high school.
Right. So you don't think
so you're saying, but
overall?
can you think it's being lazy, and
Yeah.
they're not going to their full potential? You just go, well, if that's what you want, you wouldn't push them.
You don't think as parents we kind of have to and ask? You do it on
I'm
the
not
show
saying we
every day,
don't.
3 hours.
I'm not saying we don't.
So as a parent, I think it's good for you to challenge and say, "Are you sure?
Right.
Have you explored it?" That's our job. We're teaching them.
I just think
And
it'd
then
be hard
in
to
the
let-
end, after you have them kind of think about it, then just say, "Okay, we'll keep praying and see where the Lord takes this." But
Yeah, I just think it'd be hard to let them fail.
it is hard.
It's hard to
Absolutely.
let them fail. It's
And I'd
so
probably
hard.
get in a fight with my kid.
Yeah,
Not
yeah,
a
yeah.
physical fight, but we'd argue.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And that
It is hard.
conversation would not go well.
Right.
Right.
It's
and
easy for us to sit here and say that, but to be faced with it.
Yeah,
but you have
yeah,
to
yeah.
remember too, like they're coming at it from a totally different perspective.
Right.
And, like one of the arguments we have in our house all the time, like I like things a certain way. My daughter sees that as me being perfect because that's not her expectation. It's not perfect to me. It's just putting things away, it's putting
Right.
things. But you know
My
what I
wife's the
mean?
same way, yeah.
But it's like it's not perfect to them. It looks like perfection.
Right.
So for them, it might not look like laziness. Like no, this
Yeah.
is where I want to be. And I
Yeah.
think
But
that's
for us,
again.
it could feel like it's laziness.
Yes,
Yeah,
it
yeah,
could.
yeah.
Yeah.
Kathy says maybe they're not ready to go to college. Better not to force them. She
Correct.
also says they're not ready sometimes. There's a lot to be said about real world experiences. I love
agree.
that.
Yeah, I agree.
I love that. And I think you mentioned gap year. I'm praying and I'm pushing my kids to do a gap year. And you're right. Going to
Right.
college, I think sometimes is less educational in terms of real world. Yeah.
Right.
Go out. If you tell me I want to work for Walmart for my gap year, good. Go do that.
Right,
You know,
because they might find that they are somebody that can move into that leadership position
Yeah.
and like find people to like make the things better. But they also might go, man, so this is all I have as an opportunity if I don't go to college.
but also learning how to manage money, learning
Right.
how to deal with people. Like, what's the real,
Oh,
like the
yeah.
value
Yep.
of the dollar? Just that. It might have nothing to do with what you're working at.
Right.
Just in terms of like, what's the real?
Understanding.
Oh my goodness.
We've
yeah.
I will say I say this for my daughter and I will say it for my son, like you have to work in food service. Because
Yeah,
people
yeah.
are mean when they're hungry and they want what they want, and like if you work there and you can not like fold and crumble, you can handle just about anything.
Before we wrap up, I want to read Jennifer's comment. She says, I have one sibling that was forced to go to college and ended up carrying his tuition check around in his pocket because he didn't know how to tell my parents. He ended up graduating from college at 41.
Yeah.
I-Chin, good morning, I-Chin. You always join. Thank you. He says, not everything's a linear path. Yes, I love that. At least from what I've seen throughout undergrad. I went from international business to videographer to serve ministry and other locals. As to quote Daria Morgendorfer, my goal is to not wake up at 40 with a job I hate because I was forced to choose a career path in my teens.
That's good.
Right.
That's really good.
That is
Yeah.
really good.
I just think, bottom line, it's a lot of work
Yeah.
to think in God's economy,
Yeah.
not in how the world, especially in America,
Yeah.
where we are individualistic. How we
Mhm.
define success is many times anti-biblical.
Right.
And so it's a constant struggle to really try to get it right.
Yeah, it
I
is.
think.
Yep.
And like you said, more than helping our kids, a lot of times it's our own mindset and
Yeah,
keeping
it's
that
us.
in check.
We may
Yeah.
think we get it, but we don't.
Right.
Special thanks to Jody Robbins.
Thank you,
for hanging out
Jody.
today.
Thanks guys. It was fun.
Heartland Community Church in Medina. Go check it out. Say hi to Jody.
Yeah. Hi.
Thanks for joining. Continue the conversation below and comment below and read the articles that we have. Follow us and share us.